Who would you like to ask about?
I guess we'll ask about Dakota.
And Dakota is?
Dakota's, I don't really know what kind of dog he is, honestly. He looks like a hound, or a Ridgeback, I guess, but maybe not full. And I think he's about 6 months. And we acquired him kind of a couple months before we acquired Belle. It was like we acquired him on January 1st, which was kind of interesting. And then Belle came, I think, I want to say late February, March. So he's a puppy. He's going through the learning puppy stages, but super stubborn he is.
My grandfather was a Ridgeback. My grandfather was a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and he's very proud of that because they're the only dog that can fight a lion. He says, that's why I'm so brave. My grandfather was a Ridgeback.
Oh, okay. So then he does have Ridgeback in him. It seems like he does because he has a black line that runs down his back and into his tail.
Yeah.
Furs at the end.
And I'm also partly a terrier fellow, so I'm very tenacious and quick. He's very proud of his lineage.
Okay. Yeah, he acts like it. I mean, he does act proud sometimes. Me and Eli always try to figure it out what he is because his face looks so much like a hound sometimes. So.
And he's saying how I'm a terrier. I have two terriers as ancestors, a ratting terrier and I keep seeing a Skye terrier, although Dakota has short hair, but he's very proud of his terrier ancestry. We're very tenacious. We never give up. And my grandfather is where I get my courage. It's almost like he feels like a lion. And I know a lady who's got a bunch of Rhodesian Ridgebacks, and she posted a photograph of them basking in the sun, like 3 or 4 of their very big dogs, and they look like lions basking in the sun. And I wondered if there's a crossover, from one species to the other in their incarnation, like they can fight lions because they have been lions in some lives, and they're the same color as lions, Ridgebacks, and Dakota is somewhat lion colored. So anyway, he feels raring to go. He's full of vim and vigor, full of beans. He's a very enthusiastic dog, and he knows there's something you want to do with him. He knows that he's going to be doing this work with you of finding missing people and so on, and he's full of confidence. Yeah,
his main thing right now is he's super stubborn. Super, super stubborn. I will tell him no and reprimand him, and he will go right back and do it again.
Yeah, he doesn't care because he thinks he's like the smartest little fella in the world, is what he's saying. It makes me wonder if he had another life in England, because they used to call dogs a little fella, or a fella, like a guy, or maybe they did in America when that was what people said before they said guy, but he keeps saying, I'm the smartest fella in the world, I'm smart. He's a little too full of himself at times. What he needs to gain is calmness. He's saying, yes, I know I need to calm down, but life's so exciting. It's so exciting. It's all so exciting. Now, he's on a hair trigger of stimulation where, he will do things before he knows he's doing them. And what you've got is a young dog with terrier instincts, and that's the thing with these very small dogs. Terriers are often very small. Their instincts, they've been bred with instincts. Their instincts are very strong. They've been bred to have heightened hunting instincts and also, jaws that lock onto prey and so on. So that has been fostered in our breed. And yes, I must admit I'm victim to this. It's this very, very fast reaction. And so where he mostly needs the healing and balancing is towards being of a more calm demeanor. He knows, I want to be in control of myself, but that's the hardest thing for him. And then, of course, with many breeds, you can't get very far with the calming them down until they're a certain age. It's going to be a different age with him. I mostly have worked with collies, and you can't do a lot with a collie until it's 3 years old because it simply can't control itself until it's 3 years old. They just have too much energy. And I have a feeling with him it's kind of similar in a way. He's very, very smart.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, I taught him to sit and lay down when he was 8 weeks old, 9 weeks old. He's smart. And I took him out and I did socialize him, and I had him out in public a lot when he was a puppy. And now all of a sudden he starts the aggression where he wants to bark at people in public. And so that's something I'm trying to change. I know he's being protective, but that's something that I can't really have.
It's a terrier thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's so many small breeds. I have a small dog, and the barking, can be a bit annoying. And, because I go out on the ranch with him, and he's very good with the horses, but he barks at everyone.
Mm-hmm.
He barks at people come in the house, and you've got that thing. They're using a calming flower essence. But if you get the cherry plum for Belle, the husky, that would be one of the remedies you could use to get him over this habit of barking at everybody. Because it would be like, he knows you don't like it, but it's involuntary. He finds himself barking, and he can tell that you're not happy about it. But those things are not linked together in his mind. He just happens to be barking. He can feel your displeasure, but he hasn't opened like a brain pathway to have the control from something you don't like, to be able to control that. Barking is completely involuntary with him, which I guess it very often is with dogs. I think, I'm going to bark, like I'm going to pick up this cup of coffee. They just find that they're barking, and barking is happening. So it's like I would say, a new neural pathway or neural pathways for a new behavior, which is actually to suppress the barking reflex. It can be done. I would say you're going to have success if you address this very specifically, so he can learn to suppress, override his barking reflex. It can be done, and it can be done without struggle. It's just a matter of finding the key. And I don't know if you say arrogant, he is so full of himself.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, and then we can do all these things because I'm really smart and really special.
Yeah. You can tell he thinks that about himself. And, the times that I've taken him out and he's barked, he was like, he wanted to go after the people. And I'm like, no, you can't. You can't, And another thing, too, is he walks so good on a leash, and now he wants to pull. So those are two big things that we have to really, really work on.
I know I need to control myself. I just don't know how. I don't know how to do this. So you're going to have, as you know from working with training animals, you have to find the strategy that works. And you've been actually doing very, very well with training your animals. But with these animals, it is always a matter of finding the key, the strategy that works. And it's not the same key for all animals and all behaviors. But you will do this. Once you find the key for each behavior, for each animal, then you'll overcome the problem very fast.
Yeah, because, he's a lovable dog. He cuddles with me. He has to sleep with me. He just has to. And I'm thinking, well, when he gets to be an 80-pound dog, I don't know how he's supposed to fit. But, we do have that connection where he just has to be with me. But at the same time, when I get mad at him, he'll run and hide because he knows he does wrong. But then he goes back and does it again, and it's so frustrating because I don't like getting mad at him like that and reprimanding him, but it's like he just does not learn. He's gotten a lot better with the potty training, but it's like I'll take him outside, he'll be out there for 20 minutes and come back in, and 5 minutes later. And it's like, are you serious? So these are things that I'm not understanding why he continues to do them when he knows better. As arrogant as he is.
I'm picking up a bit of urethritis.
What is that?
So he's saying I can't always control my pee.
Well, no, it's not the pee. The pee is, I've gotten him to where he'll go outside and pee, and he pees like a lot. He'll come back in, he'll be out there for 20 minutes, and he'll come back in and he'll go in my kitchen and poop. And I'll reprimand him, and he knows because he goes to the door, so it's not like he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. And so that's why I'm a little confused at why he's not getting it. He's gotten a lot better in the last couple weeks, but, it's like he's outside for 20, 30 minutes. Well, why doesn't he do it when he's out there? Why does he wait till he comes in? I mean, he knows better because he'll run and hide from me when I'm like, okay, I need to reprimand you for this.
I can see what it is. It's from my last life. I see him shut in a house and not let out so that, he was neglected, and everything was done in the house, because then he was shut in the house alone for a long time, and there's a lot of trauma associated with it, so he's got a kind of mind tangle about where he's supposed to do this. And again, honestly, I know I keep saying flower essences, but animals respond to flower essences faster and better than humans do, just as children do more than adults. And so, he has quite a lot of stress about evacuating his bowels. He has a lot of stress there that when he's going to, it's like he gets so confused, he can't figure out in the moment what he's supposed to do. As soon as he gets the urge to empty his bowels, he also gets a freak out happening in his brain at the same time, and then it's like he can't figure out what to do. He's just got a lot of fear that comes up. He's also been abused for doing it indoors in a past life, so a lot of fear comes up when he wants to evacuate his bowels, and he can't remember what he's supposed to do. He can't remember the sequence of activity. I know you're training without tidbits and rewards, but have you tried the thing of being outside with him and praising him, maybe giving him a treat as soon as he's had a bowel movement?
Well, I tried the treats in the beginning, but then, the guy said don't use treats, so I started just really praising him a lot when he'd go outside, because I'll stand outside with him a lot of the time and wait. But I just stand there for 30 minutes, but a lot of the time I'll stand there and he'll go pee, and then I'll wait. And like this morning he did it. So, I praised him a lot, and I'll give him a lot of love. And it's like sometimes when I do that, it's like he doesn't know what to do with it. Like he doesn't know how to feel when I'm giving him that love. You could see it in his eyes. He'll sit here and he'll cuddle with me, and that's different. But if I'm giving him praise, he tries to kind of avoid it, kind of. Like, he'll let me give him a little bit of praise, and then that's it. Like, he doesn't want a whole bunch of...
Again, that's from this last life and very likely other life where there's been abuse and stupid handling. And so, one of the things he's doing with you, since you are a healer, is he's healing issues that he carries, just like we have to. And the telepathy and a flora essence can be part of the treatment, but if you're interested another time, I'll give you a prescription with the real bark, because there's a combination of a few, or they'll make you up a combination, or they sell a combination that will get you over specific traumas, and that's what the fastest way is to work with the aura and the astral body and so on, and just have a remedy that dissolves all the trauma that's encoded. into the body on a cellular level, and then the behavior changes, then you can reach the animals. It works far better than people realize, and definitely toilet training issues are one of the stickiest areas when you get an animal that doesn't get it. But it's easier to just have something that you use that just dissolves the trauma, and then the animal can understand what you want and do it.
Yeah, because I don't mean to get so frustrated with him. I do get frustrated with him.
It is frustrating.
Yeah. Well, even with everything, like just how stubborn he is, I get frustrated because it's constantly going in there and telling him no, and reprimanding him, and then it goes right back. So it gets frustrating because I keep having to do it over and over and over again. And I try not to get mad at him, and sometimes I do get a little angry at him, and I feel bad because he does run and hide. And so now knowing that he was abused, now I feel even worse about that. I try not to, but it's just
you're only human, and we can get extremely frustrated when you have 1,000,001 things to deal with, and then the dog keeps pooping in the kitchen after you spent 40 minutes trying to get him to do it outside. With everything else you're dealing with, you're probably going to have a very short patience limit. But the other thing with Dakota we're seeing is that he's not had many lives as being a human being's dog, but most of the lives he has had, he's not been handled very well, or he's been abused. And so this is also a great challenge for you, because once you've trained Dakota, most other animals are going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons you took on this dog. We have a special connection. You've connected with Dakota more in the higher dimensions where training wasn't an issue, because you have full range of communication. So, in the other dimensions, we would work with the animal soul, but we would not be training the animal, because we already had brilliant communication with each other, and the animal has the same self-definition. In other words, working with animals in other dimension, animal souls, and often they do have a different form than they have in the earth plane, they have as much self-determination as you do, so you relate to each other as peers, where in the earth plane it's very difficult, very different. It's master and the master and the animal, you actually are taking more control of the animal's will. You're getting the animal to work to your will, where in the other dimensions the animal is unequal, and there's no overpowering of will. There's no need of that. Animals come in here to serve us by very often doing what we will them to do. It's sad that many people think that that's the whole connection, because obviously it's just a small part of it. Animals are about I feel good because I can make them do what I want to do, and it can be very disastrous. But with Dakota, you see, he's been with you in other dimensions as an equal, and he's having some trouble learning that, yes, he knows he's come in to help you by doing things you want him to do, but he doesn't understand the dynamics of the relationship of where, you propose and man disposes, God disposes and dog disposes. God proposes and dog disposes. You get the idea and then he carries out the idea. That actual mechanism is quite difficult for him to get, because he's never done it before. I think he has been a ratting dog in one life in the 19th century or earlier 20th century, where ratting dogs don't need to be trained very much. Dogs that go and get small animals out of a system of burrows, they're bred and so on to use their instincts, and there's not much training involved. They might be absolutely useless in any other situation, but if they can catch and kill kind of thing, or retrieve or whatever, they're a brilliant ratting dog, a brilliant prey dog. So that's just the instinct of the animal. They don't have to really learn very complex behaviors. So he comes to you and he's very raw as far as training goes. But he's trying very hard to learn, and he will learn quite a lot. There are probably going to be a few occasions where you're finding missing person using Belle, and you start to take him along so he can observe what she does.
Okay.
But this is a long story, kind of getting him to get the neural pathways that he's never had before, of where he's your instrument in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know how to do that, but he's very willing to learn. So you will make progress, but it will come in more easily once you've got Belle trained and you can focus more on Dakota.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing, was one at a time. I figured since Belle seemed to be more trainable, especially on the leash, then I would just train her, and then as Dakota got a little bit older, he did all the basics when he was younger. Like, he knows how to do the sitting and laying down and stuff, which is the leash and being out in public and stuff that he's having problems with. But I'm hoping that as he gets older, those problems aren't going to be as hard as they are now, because I think he'll understand more, I'm hoping.
He will, and you'll find ways to get through to him. Right now, if you're in any kind of stress, he's picking up on all things equally, but very strongly on your own emotional states. So if you're stressed, basically anything, his training tends to go out the window. Because he doesn't know what area he's supposed to focus on and what level he's supposed to be reading you on. All he does is respond to your energy. He knows that's something he knows about why he's with you. He's supposed to respond to your energy, but right now he responds to all your different energies, thoughts and feelings.
Mhm. So the whole thing why he was abusing didn't really have a lot of human contact. That's probably why he's so cuddly now.
Yeah, he definitely needs cuddles a lot. You know, he needs that comfort and that healing. And especially when he feels he's done something wrong, the faster you can, you know, if you get upset with a mistake, a bad behavior, whatever, is that the faster you can just give him a hug and tell him you love him, the less of a problem that behavior is going to be in the future.
Yeah, because he's going to be a big dog, so I have to get all this stuff before he gets any bigger.
Oh, it'll work
out
out
of control.
fine. But he is a challenge for you. He's a special challenge for you, because I've seen this with horses a lot on the ranch. One horse was brought in for training, and I just knew that horse had never worked with humans before. It had only been, you know, the one true wild horse that lives in Asia, and had only been a wild horse, not worked with humans. And I didn't actually think that horse was going to be trainable. I was told that he did get trained, but I would have serious doubts about getting on that horse. Because I could see in his eye that there was a place where he just didn't get it. And what I see with Dakota is, it's challenging, but you will get through it. You are going to get it together and both be the better for it, because you'll learn so much. And in essence, the fact that he always will have that bit of wildness is actually going to make him very good at accessing higher dimensional information, because you want your dogs, these can't be dogs that are 100% bent to your will. You're using these dogs for their abilities to access levels of information, sometimes better than you can, often better than you can. These are animals, they're not human, and that's really why we're using dogs. They access higher levels of information, hidden information that can be hidden from the human and so on. So they're saying it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to end up in a place where you and these dogs can find people that no other psychic could find. Because you're going to have a very special combination. It takes a very special person, which you are, because, you know, how many psychics that find missing people and so on are brilliant animal trainers and have the perfect animals. You know, you're going to be you have the possibility to actually have more success with this than anyone else is having, where it's a case where, you know, the dogs are needed, that you're going to be able to find people that nobody else could find and so on, especially as you're a very good psychic, a very good clairvoyant and a remote viewer, you know, actually very brilliant. And then you have this brilliant connection with these dogs. There are very few people who have an ace connection with animals they work with. This is a rarity. That's why it appears spectacular. And then there are very few people, there are very few remote viewers, stroke psychics, who are actually really good at finding missing people. You're in the top 1 to 1.5% of master psychics as far as finding missing people. And then you have this also superlative connection with animals you work with. Definitely you're going to be the only one that can solve certain cases. You and the dogs, you three are going to be the only ones that can solve certain cases. So there's a lot to look forward to with you.
So with them down the line, should I be trying to get them into cadaver dog training, or scent dog training, or just do it all myself?
Well, both, but the strongest connection you have with Belle and Dakota is the telepathic and the fact that they are seers. They see energy, they see in the higher dimensions. And then here and there you can do a bit of cadaver dog training. But the strongest thing will be the connection between you and the fact that these dogs are extremely psychic and sensitive. That all in all, as you move forward in the training, you're going to realize that the scent dog and the cadaver training is almost a byproduct. It's, you know, little hard to explain, but, you know, you don't have to focus on it very strongly, but it would be good to run through it a few times with each dog just so that they kind of know that that's one of the things they're required to do, and also run through it with both dogs working together. But, you know, these are things for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get the understanding and the flow of information between you and each dog is really mastered, then adding in the cadaver training would be probably kind of minor to them because they're going to be so good at knowing what you want. But I do also get with Dakota that, you know, you may not totally lose the unruliness. You know, there may be a suggestion of the unruliness, but that may actually keep him open to picking up things that you and Belle do not pick up on. Because an animal in its wild state, where the aspects of the animal that are not under human control, that's often where they're the most useful because they're picking up stuff that you don't have a hope of picking up.
Okay.
And relaying that information to you. So there's a lot here with Dakota where his wildness can be a problem right now, will eventually turn out to be an advantage in your work, but it's a long story.
Okay. Makes sense.
And it also relates to when you've worked with him in other dimensions, and he has been a lion. His soul has been in a lion's body. And he's saying, yes, you're right, to me, because I only just recently picked up on this with Ridgebacks, that they've been lions, and so Ridgebacks are lions that wanted to experience being a dog, because they felt they could relate to humans very strongly in that way, and they can work with humans. So again, it's this thing where little known facts about reincarnation, right? Yeah, it's good. It's excellent.
Okay. Well, that stuff's good to know. So now I know more of how to train him. And one thing I do have to have is try to have patience with him.
Well, he's very pleased that
can.
he's been able to communicate with you through me today, and he's saying, I'm a happy fellow. He calls himself a fellow. I'm a happy fellow. Because I think in most of his life, you know, the people have said, oh, that's a nice little fellow, or that's a poor fellow, or whatever. It's like, I'm a happy fellow. He's very pleased that you've got a little more understanding of where my issues are coming from.
Yeah, because like he will go in and get on the counter and counter surf 50 times a day, even though I go and tell him no. So super stubborn.
Because I'm a very self-willed animal, and that's your problem with me. He knows. There's like a battle of wills.
Yeah.
He knows
he's
that.
very strong-willed.
Yeah, he's very self-willed, and that can be disconcerting in a dog. I know I've worked mainly with dogs that are very malleable breeds, such as collies, which are the easiest dog to train once. You know, because you hardly have to train them. You just talk to them because they're so attuned to the human mind, just like Siamese cats and Arabian horses. They have lived in homes so closely with humans for so many thousands of years that it's easier for them to understand what you're saying verbally than any other animal, because they actually got the hardwiring in the brain to understand human speech so easily. You know, I tried to work with a pit bull. That was a whole different story. You know, really the high energy and the quick instincts made it a lot more difficult for me to train a pit bull. I don't specialize in pit bulls. I love them. Well, you've got a dog here that is not very strongly attuned to the human will, and you'll reach him mainly through love. That's how you'll reach this dog, through love. And the more loving feeling flows between you, the quicker you will actually understand the problems. I know I have a dog with brain damage who's a weird mixture. Basically, it's some kind of terrier mix. And the brain damage, you know, has made him extremely aggressive. And also, he's very, very highly strung and actually nervous. And most readers told me to have him put to sleep, but obviously you don't want to do that to your dog. So I worked with him, where I used to always have the stigmata because I would get my hands and my feet bitten every day, and so they usually had a bloody mark in the middle. He gradually over time learned not to bite me. But, you know, he's running on two things. He's running on the fact that he loves me and he's my buddy and I'm his doggy mum, and also that he lives in a state of fear. He goes into fear extremely easily. And so, it took me a really long time to understand what was wrong with this dog. I never had a dog like it. He got brain damage from oxygen starvation and nutritional starvation as a puppy when he was at the local clinic on fluids and so on, and they turned out not to really know what they were doing. Before he was 12 weeks old, and so then he, as well as being a terrier, which is not a dog I had really worked with, he was also brain damaged. He's like 8.5 years old now. And he still has his problems, but over the time we've got very good communication. But at first the thing is, everyone on the ranch was saying, you can't handle dogs. I mean, there were people here who are very bossy, and they just took great pride in their finesse and skill with animals, and were saying I didn't know dogs. Well, this isn't true. I'm actually better. I have more understanding of animals than those people do in most ways. And also I'm English, and the English are very simpatico with dogs, way more than, leaving aside excellent people like yourself who's especially good with animals. Really understanding animals is not very strong in the American psyche at all. Then you do get a certain percentage of the population that are really gifted and wonderful with animals and really understand them and treat them really well. But then it's not in the society very strongly to understand animals. So I've had almost everyone on this ranch has try to improve my ability to work with animals, but in fact, I actually have the gift. They
Yeah.
don't. But it's interesting because they're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And it really took me a long time to find out why he was biting me as soon as any portion of my body appeared near him when he'd been sleeping, would immediately latch onto it and bite it. And, I've never had this thing with dogs biting me and so on. And it took me a long time to work out that it was really brain damage and not personality, and not what he wanted. I was really trying to understand where these personal defects came from, and I didn't know to start with, is this just a dog that's not a very nice person? Eventually I did work out, there's a problem with the hypothalamus, and then I read up on it, and the fits happen because the hippocampus is damaged, and doesn't always send the right signals to the hypothalamus, and then he has a fit, and even when he bites, that's like a petit mal seizure, but once or twice a year he has a grand mal seizure, which I learned how to bring him out of it really fast. Like Xanax works for a start. But it's like, now I know this dog, but because there were so many things, I had to find my own way with this dog. And very good clairvoyance when he first had the illness, they said, look, it's probably best to put him down. But as I said, that's not what you want to do with your pet.
Yeah.
And so we're okay. I realise he's been a lot more work than any other dog would have been, but there's always something to be gained, and he lives on a ranch, and I work from home. He has a very nice life. Yes, he has his shaky moments, but he has a better life than most dogs because I'm with him all the time, and we just open the door and then it's all horse ranch with wonderful smells, and he's very clever around horses. The only small dog on the ranch I've ever seen that you can ride a horse and you can run behind a horse. He really knows horses, and I really assume that's from a past lifetime.
Yeah, most likely.
Because he's never had a moment's problem with horses. He's tiny. He's a 12-pound dog. And he understands horses. They don't bother him either way. But I was really impressed that he could, as soon as I got up on a horse, he would just run behind. Where other people who have small dogs, they'll let a big dog run with a horse when they're riding, but all these people who are great dog people, their dogs won't run behind the horse. But anyway, enough of me and our story. Thank you for letting me read Dakota, and I'm available if at any point where you're ready to tackle a specific connection behavioral problem, you can always ask, because I can sometimes pull in information. You can usually pull in information about that specific problem direct and how to resolve that problem. So, this is a more complex thing, and you deal with the problems as they come up, and when you feel it's time to, you can actually overcome a specific issue.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. I learned a lot from this one, and more of how I'm going to have to just deal with him. The whole abuse in the past thing, makes me see things in a different way on how no wonder he likes to cuddle and stuff. And so I'm just going to have to, maybe the love will just help with all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's probably learning not to be triggered too easily. I know I've had some triggering with animal problems in the home, and obviously it's when I'm stressed that I get cross. But when I just go, okay, there's a problem, I'll figure out the answer sooner or later. Mop up the pee, whatever. Just say, don't attack the cat. I don't like it. The answer, just because the answer isn't here right now, it doesn't mean I won't find the answer. I will find the answer. You can't find the answer to everything, every challenge. The or even ongoing, which is more difficult, there is always an answer.
Yeah.
In the worst case scenario, the answer may be that the animal is not the right animal to be with you, and it needs a different person to be with, and maybe that animal, your role in the animal's life is to deliver it to another person who's its real human partner. But basically, that you have actually, got a very good connection with the animals that come into your life, and like you have said, they're there because they're meant to be there, and that means that the problems are all solvable, but it doesn't mean you'll get the answer every time a problem crops up. Sometimes you just have to sort of file that in the later tray and just try not to react.
Yeah.
But understood.
Yeah, I have a bad temper, so I mean, it's not, some of it is me too. It will teach me how to not have such a hurricane temper.
You're a person that's having a lot of pressure in your life at times, and therefore you would fly off the handle more easily than somebody that's having less challenges. Because their nerves can get quite worn, and so a lot of the temperament is circumstantial rather than a really deep character flaw. Nobody is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And, like many people who are spiritually evolved at this time, your life is actually being loaded with challenges. And so your behavior may not be exemplary in every moment the way a person was less stressed and challenged. The very first level, as you know, is like not doing things out of reaction, not doing things because of the stress. And obviously, shouting is better than physical reaction. Reprimanding without shouting is better than shouting, and so on. But under the circumstances, you do very well. And I think it's an unfortunate byproduct of humans living with animals, or for animals, I should say, living with humans, is that they do experience the temper of the human from time to time. And there are very few domestic animals that have not had to deal with a human in a bad mood. But you are not an abuser, and sometimes you're just bound to be cross. And as you know from experience, as I well know, these are not the moments where your training progresses in leaps and bounds. But also, you are human, and letting out a bit of displeasure isn't a very destructive thing. I think, our animals know that we love them, and just like children, they can actually handle quite a lot as long as they know that you love them.
Yeah. True.
So, thank you very much for allowing me into the You and Dakota movie. Would you like to make another one of these?
Sure.
Okay.